Okay, so let's talk a little bit about menus and Windows applications.
We're going to start by targeting .NET Framework, and then later we'll see what this looks like when you use this same tool set when you target .NET Core. You'll be able to use either one of the frameworks when you do the assignment code.
So what we're going to do is add a menu strip to our application. So I'm going to drag this onto the application or the form. And the first thing you notice is that although it does affect the form, as you see here, in a visual way, it's not quite the same. So we've got this indication here at the top of our form, type here. That's actually going to be a menu item. The menu strip is sort of two things. It's this visual indication right here, plus the menu strip down here. So this is the first control we see that has at least partially a non-visible part. In other words, we see it at design time, but we're not going to see that at runtime. So if I click Start and run the program, there's a very slight indication right here. It's a slightly lighter area, but without actually typing any characters there, we don't really see a change on the form. So let's go ahead and make that change. So we go into the form, and as you see, it says type here. If I just click there, more stuff appears. So this is my first menu item, and a very common one is file. So I'll go with that. And for a second one, we can say edit. And every time you type a new one, you get a new space for other ones. So let me go back to file. And again, sort of the standard thing here might be open or save and that sort of thing. So it's as simple as that. I now have a menu strip, which is the entire control, this whole thing, that is composed of menu items, in this case, file and edit. All right, so about the only event associated with this is the click event. So if I go to open, and again, I'm still at design time, and I double click, I am immediately taken to the stub for that event procedure. And so in this case, I'm just going to say message box dot show open menu item click, because that's what actually just took place. All right, so if we run the code as you would expect, there's my menu, and I can click File, and there's Open. I click on that, and I will get a menu or a message box that says menu open menu item click. All right. So the next step you might want to do or have is to specify shortcut hotkeys or access keys. So let's do that. And the first one, let me go back to design time, is a matter, strangely enough, of the caption or the text associated with the menu. So let's say, for example, that what I wanted to be to have an access key of O associated with the open file menu. So if I go back to the beginning and put an ampersand there, what this says, if you put an ampersand in front of a letter of the caption, it means that's the access key. So I'm also going to do that, and just to be different, to show you it doesn't have to go with the first character, I'm going to put an ampersand in front of the I on file. And you'll note that when I put the ampersand in front of the O and then actually accepted that change, I get an underscore, and that indicates to me that that is the access key, the O, for the open menu item. And again, I've done the same thing with file, except it's the letter I. And so if I click Start, there's my application, and right now you don't see those underlines, but just like any Windows application, if you hit the Alt key, those underlines will appear, and so now you see that the I has a small underline underneath it. And then if I hit I at that point, it opens up the menu for that particular item, and there you see the O that also has an underline, and I don't even have to hit the O at this point because I hit the Alt key to get into File. So now if I just hit the letter O, it will execute that same event procedure, and there's the message box that's a result of calling that event procedure. Okay, so that's an access key. A shortcut is even better. So let's go here. And if I look at the properties for this menu item, or right click on it and go to Properties, you will see that it says shortcut keys as one of the properties, and I can select that or hit the down arrow there. And let's say Control plus the key O, the letter O, case insensitive, will be my my shortcut key for open. That makes reasonable sense. All right, so now you see Control plus O listed there, and then when I run the code, my same form, and of course I could hit the Alt key to get the access keys to show up, but because I know the Control O is open, I just press Control O, and sure enough, it executes that event procedure, which causes the message dialog box to show up.
So now that we built this menu in a project that targets .NET Framework, let's take a shortcut, and in fact let's delete the menu strip that we created. So we're starting from scratch, and now we can copy another menu strip onto the form, and we have a choice here. We could right click on the menu indication at the top, we could right click on the menu strip, or we could click on the little play button to the right of the control and select Insert Standard Items. And that builds a standard menu bar for this window. And then from there, it's just a matter of modifying, removing, or adding windows just as we did before. Now, let's take a look at the menu strip control in a project that targets .NET Core framework. So here's my new form in my Core framework application. And once again, I drag menu strip onto it, and we don't see the type here indication that we saw with the .NET Framework application. You'll find a very similar data structure here, and here you see items just like we saw before, and the user interface that we have to the .NET Core version of the menu strip control is similar to the interface that we had for the list view control that we saw earlier. And if you want to create menus inside of this menu strip, you would click Add, and now you have a drop-down items collection, just as we did with the other menu, and you can click on the ellipsis button there, and you can add additional menu items. So it's a little bit different interface. It's not quite as visual, but all the information is there. But once again, we can take the shortcut, delete the menu strip, and instead drag a new menu strip on, right-click, select Insert Standard Items, and now we have a beginning of a menu for this window. One thing you don't have is, again, the visual indication here. Even though this does have sub-items, you won't be seeing them in the design. So you actually have to run the program to see those menus, or you can go to the Properties window and dig through the data structure. And if you look at all the controls in the Properties window, you will find, for example, there's Save As and Save, etc. So for example, we can go to the File Tool Strip menu, and it has a drop-down items collection, and you can look at those, and there it is. If you run the application, you will see the menus. So for example, here are the functioning menus. But you don't see these at design time when you target a .NET Core WinForms application. So if you want to add an event procedure, you have to look through the data on the Properties window. So for example, let's say we wanted to add event procedure to new, and we find that its name is new tool strip menu item, and then you would go to events and double click on the click event, and it adds the stub just as it would in a project that's targeted to .NET Framework as opposed to .NET Core.
Okay, so that's menus, and you can see how easy it is to add a menu to your application, as well as supply event procedures, access keys, or shortcuts.